Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet moment we now share. Tonight, we walk together once more along a gentle path shaped by the wisdom of Zen. These are not lessons meant to be memorized, but soft understandings meant to be felt. They are ancient whispers, carried across centuries, offered to calm the restless mind and guide it toward natural clarity. You are invited to simply listen. There is no need to strive, no need to arrive anywhere else. What follows are tender Zen stories, each one holding a subtle truth about releasing the mind from the invisible cages it builds from worry, comparison, and endless dissatisfaction. These are not ordinary stories told to pass the night. They are quiet transmissions of insight, echoes left behind by those who discovered a simple but profound secret. True rest is not a place you reach someday. It is a doorway you notice opening within you. The Zen master Dogen once taught, "To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be awakened by all things." Tonight, these stories gently invite you to forget the self that struggles, the self that worries, the self that tries so hard to control the world. As the stories unfold, you may notice something subtle shifting inside. The noise of the day begins to soften. The weight you have been carrying loosens its grip. Your awareness settles into a quiet, natural stillness, and rest begins to feel effortless. So allow yourself to sink into this moment. Release the day. Take one slow, unhurried breath in, and as you breathe out, let your body soften. Open your mind gently, and receive the wisdom that has traveled a long way to meet you right here, right now. We begin with a story of compassion and the invisible burdens we so often place upon ourselves. This is the story of the weight of the world. In a peaceful monastery resting among rolling green hills, there lived a young monk named Kenji. His heart was sincere, his intentions pure. Each morning before sunrise, he rose to meditate in silence. Each evening, he walked the monastery paths in quiet reflection. Those who knew him could see his dedication clearly. Yet beneath his calm discipline, a heavy sorrow stirred. Whenever Kenji heard news from the outside world, or listened to travelers speak of distant lands, his heart grew heavier. Wars raged far away. Children suffered from hunger not far from home. Illness moved through villages. Cruelty seemed to bloom without end. The suffering of the world pressed down on him like a mountain on his chest. Breathing became difficult. Peace felt unreachable. One morning, no longer able to hold it inside, Kenji approached his teacher, Master Rashi Tanaka, who was quietly tending the monastery garden. The old master moved slowly among the vegetables, his hands weathered yet gentle, treating each plant with patient care. "Master," Kenji said softly, his voice trembling with pain, "I feel the suffering of all beings weighing upon my heart. I see war, hunger, sickness, endless harm. This burden is crushing me. How can I find peace while the world is drowning? How can I sit in meditation while others are in agony?" Master Tanaka did not answer at once. He simply looked up, his eyes kind, yet clear. Without a word, he pointed to a large smooth stone resting beside the garden path. The stone was simple, shaped by years of water and wind, beautiful in its quiet strength. "Pick it up," the master said gently. Kenji hesitated, then bent down and lifted the stone with effort. It was heavier than it looked. His arms strained. His back tightened. "Now," said Master Tanaka, returning calmly to his weeding, Carry it with you for the rest of the day. Do not set it down. Take it to meditation, to meals, to work, and to rest. Though confused, Kenji obeyed. All day long he carried the stone. During morning meditation his arms trembled. At meals he struggled even to eat. While sweeping the floors, his movements were slow and awkward. By afternoon, pain burned in his shoulders. By evening, exhaustion filled his bones. As the sun dipped below the hills, Kenji staggered back to his teacher, his face pale, his breath shallow. "Master," he whispered, "I cannot carry it any longer. This stone is breaking my body and my spirit." Master Tanaka looked at him with deep compassion. "Then," he said softly, "put it down." Kenji released the stone. It struck the earth with a dull sound. Instantly, relief washed through him. His shoulders dropped. His breath deepened. The absence of weight felt like freedom. The master set aside his tools and spoke gently. "The suffering of the world is like that stone. It is real. It is heavy. Your compassion is precious. Never lose it. But you are not meant to carry all suffering upon your shoulders. You are meant to see it, to understand it, and then to set it down so your hands are free to help where you truly can." The Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." When we carry the weight of all suffering inside our hearts, we become too burdened to help anyone. Compassion without wisdom becomes exhaustion. We pick up stones that are not ours. We carry pain that belongs to the world. And slowly we lose our strength. True compassion, Zen teaches, is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the ability to feel deeply without being consumed. Like a skilled healer, we learn to serve without absorbing pain as our own. As you rest here tonight, notice the stones you may be carrying, concerns you cannot control, emotions that do not belong to you, the pressure to fix everything. Feel the quiet relief of setting them down. When we stop carrying stones that are not ours, we free ourselves to do the work that truly belongs to us. And now we turn to another story, a story about recognition and the quiet truth of worth. This is the story of the stone mind. A young monk named Hogen traveled far to study under the great master Joshu. He practiced with devotion, working diligently, meditating deeply, studying tirelessly. Yet month after month passed, and the master seemed not to notice him. Others received guidance. Others received attention. Hogen felt invisible. Doubt crept into his heart. Perhaps he was unworthy. Perhaps he lacked something essential. At last, burdened by disappointment, he approached the master. "I feel like a worthless stone," Hogen confessed. "Forgotten. Unseen." Joshu gestured to the stones in the courtyard. "Do you see these stones?" he asked. "Yes, master." "They support everything," Joshu said calmly. "They ask for nothing. They are not praised. Yet without them, nothing stands." Then he looked at Hogen and smiled. "If you truly understood what it means to be a stone, you would already be free." In that moment, Hogen understood. His need to be seen had been the very barrier to realizing his true nature. The Buddha taught that truth cannot remain hidden. And the truth is this: your worth does not depend on recognition. Like the stones beneath a monastery, your presence already supports the world. Now rest. Let the stories settle gently. There is nothing you need to become. Nothing you need to prove. Just breathe. This forgetting does not mean becoming indifferent. nor does it mean withdrawing from life or responsibility. Rather, it is the gentle releasing of our attachment to being seen as special, to being noticed, to being confirmed. When this attachment softens, our actions begin to arise from a place of quiet fullness instead of hidden hunger. We serve not because we need to be valued, but because serving is simply what the moment asks. This is what Zen calls the stone mind. A mind like stone is not hard or cold. It is steady. It is willing to be ordinary. It is content to support without applause, to remain unseen while holding everything together. Stone mind is closely aligned with what Buddhism calls beginner's mind. The openness to not knowing. The humility of not needing to stand apart. The strength of being reliable rather than impressive. This does not mean shrinking yourself or hiding your natural gifts. It means offering them freely, without clinging to how they are received, without measuring their worth through praise or silence. In daily life, cultivating stone mind is very simple. When you work, you simply work, fully present, without waiting for recognition. When you listen to a friend, you listen completely, without needing to be seen as wise or kind. When you meditate, you just sit, without chasing insight, without comparing experiences. Tonight, as you rest here, you might gently notice the subtle places where you seek acknowledgement, or where you feel unseen or overlooked. Can you sense the relief that comes when the need to be special begins to dissolve? As that need loosens, a quiet dignity emerges on its own. A dignity that does not depend on approval. A dignity like stones beneath a temple, supporting everything, asking for nothing. The Buddha once said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." Often, the deepest teachings do not come from those who stand in the spotlight, but from those who quietly sustain the whole with steady presence and gentle strength. And now we turn toward another story. A story about identity and the masks we wear as we move through the world. This is the story of the governor's visit. In the ancient capital of Kyoto, where cherry blossoms traced the rivers and temples stood beside bustling markets, there lived a man of great authority. Governor Nakamura governed a vast province, overseeing the welfare of thousands, upholding imperial law and maintaining peace. His days were filled with ceremony and obligation. He was dressed each morning in fine silk robes, addressed by long titles, met with deep bows and formal words. Every movement carried the weight of position. Every sentence was measured. Though honored, he felt strangely distant from life itself. Behind the titles and protocols, a quiet emptiness grew. He longed for something simple, something real. He had heard of a Zen master named Kyu, known for seeing beyond appearances. After long reflection, the governor decided to seek him out. When he arrived at the hermitage, he came as protocol demanded, with attendants and guards, his robes elaborate, his presence announced in formal language. When the master was told of the governor's arrival, he listened quietly and then said, "I have no business with titles. Tell him to leave." The message was returned, and instead of anger, a clear understanding arose within the governor. The rejection was not of him, but of the mask he wore. Without hesitation, he dismissed his attendants. He removed his outer robes. He washed his face, tied his hair simply, and approached the hermitage alone. This time, he knocked himself. When the door opened, he bowed and said softly, "My name is Dado. I seek guidance." At once, the master smiled. "Ah, Dado," he said warmly. Please come in." The door opened not to a governor, but to a human being. This story reveals a deep truth. We often confuse who we are with the roles we play. Over time, titles and positions can harden into identity. Zen teaches that roles are necessary, but mistaking them for our essence creates suffering. We become guarded, rigid, afraid to be seen without armor. When Dado set his title aside, he did not lose his ability to serve. He regained his humanity. Tonight, as you reflect gently, notice the roles you carry. Worker, parent, leader, helper. Can you sense the simple presence beneath them all? The one who breathes, who feels, who exists before any label. The Buddha taught, in the end, only three things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go. And now, we turn to a final story for this evening. A story of letting go and the freedom found in loss. This is called No Water, No Moon. Sister Chiono had practiced Zen for many years in a quiet mountain monastery. Her discipline was sincere, her effort unwavering, yet awakening remained just beyond reach. She studied deeply, meditated long hours, and refined her understanding. Still, realization did not come. One autumn evening, carrying water beneath a full moon, she paused to admire its reflection shimmering perfectly in the bucket. Then suddenly, the bottom fell away. The water spilled. The reflection vanished. In that instant, her grasping dissolved. And what remained was not the moon's image, but the moon itself. She laughed, free at last. "When there is no water," she later wrote, "there is no moon in the water." Awakening is like this. Not something gained, but something revealed when holding on finally ends. Now rest, dear friend. Let the mind loosen its grip. Nothing needs to be achieved. Nothing needs to be held. Just breathe. In our seeking, we often forget this simple truth. We mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself. Our practices, which are meant to free us, quietly turn into another way of holding on. Meditation becomes something to perfect. Insight becomes something to collect. The path becomes another destination we chase. Zen calls this tendency Buddha sickness, the strange illness of becoming attached to the very idea of awakening. We turn enlightenment into an object, something to be gained in the future, forgetting that it is the awareness already present in this very moment. We imagine what awakening should look like, how it should feel, what abilities it might grant us. Then we spend years trying to reach our own ideas, walking in circles within the mind. You may recognize this pattern in other areas of life. In work, in relationships, in the search for happiness. Often, the more intensely we want something, the further it seems to move away. An interview flows more naturally when we are not desperate for approval. Love deepens when we loosen our grip on outcomes. Even remembering a forgotten name becomes easier when we stop forcing and allow it to arise on its own. This same principle lives at the heart of Zen practice. Awakening is not a state to be achieved. It is the open awareness in which all states appear and quietly fade. It cannot be grasped because it is what is grasping. It cannot be reached because it is already here. The moon reflected in Kiono's bucket symbolizes the experiences we gather along the path. Moments of peace, insights, expanded states of consciousness. They are beautiful. They are meaningful, but they are reflections, not the moon itself. When we cling to them as the goal, we become like someone trying to catch the moon by holding the water. Zen teacher Shunryu Suzuki once said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few." Kyono's realization did not come from gaining more knowledge or refining her techniques. It came when her effort collapsed completely, when the bucket fell apart, when the strategies failed, when the mind stopped trying to hold everything together. What remained was the simple awareness that had never been absent. The teaching here is gentle. Do not abandon practice. Do not stop meditating, but hold everything lightly. Sit without chasing experience. Study without collecting insight. Practice without comparing progress. And when you notice yourself trying to keep the bucket intact, forcing calm, maintaining special states, grasping for future attainment, simply stop. Zen calls this just sitting, being present without agenda, allowing each moment to arrive and depart on its own. Tonight, as you rest here, you might sense something you have been grasping. An identity, a goal, an idea of who you should become. What happens if the bottom falls out? What remains when nothing needs to be held? The Buddha taught that letting go brings freedom, and freedom is the ground of true happiness. Not the fulfillment of desire, but the release of needing. When the water spills and the reflection disappears, what remains is the moon itself. Luminous, closer than you ever imagined. And now, we turn to a story about the quiet miracle of ordinary life. This is called the real miracle. Master Bankei was known throughout Japan for his direct and simple teaching. He did not rely on rituals, dramatic displays, or philosophical complexity. He pointed people back to what was already here. One evening, a visitor from another tradition arrived. His teacher was famous for miraculous powers, healing the sick, manifesting objects, performing feats beyond explanation. With excitement, the visitor spoke of these wonders and then asked Bankei, "What miracles can you perform?" Bankei listened quietly. Then he smiled. "When I am hungry," he said, "I eat. When I'm thirsty, I drink. When I'm tired, I sleep. When spring comes, I notice the flowers. When winter arrives, I watch the snow fall. This is my miracle." Silence filled the hall. The miracle was not extraordinary. It was intimacy with what is. Zen reminds us that we often overlook the most miraculous thing of all. This moment, this breath, this awareness. Tonight, as you listen, notice the simple miracle of hearing, of understanding, of being here. Nothing else is required. Just rest. Observe, gently, the quiet mystery of understanding itself. Notice how abstract ideas appear in awareness without any effort from you. Thoughts form. Meanings arise. Comprehension happens all on its own. Feel the steady rhythm of your breathing, continuing without instruction. Notice the beating of your heart, sustaining life moment by moment without asking for permission. These experiences are so ordinary that we usually overlook them completely. And yet, each one is a profound mystery that no science can fully explain. How does consciousness arise from matter? How does awareness recognize itself? How does meaning emerge from pattern? These questions do not demand answers. They point instead to the miraculous nature of the most basic aspects of existence. When Master Bankei spoke of eating when hungry and drinking when thirsty, he was pointing to what Zen calls natural functioning. The spontaneous responsiveness of awakened awareness to the needs of each moment. This does not mean reacting blindly or acting impulsively. It means becoming so intimately attuned to present reality that appropriate action arises naturally, without the interference of excessive thinking, self-doubt, or spiritual ambition. Zen teacher Dogen expressed this clearly. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by the myriad things. When we stop trying to be spiritual in some special or impressive way, when we abandon the search for extraordinary experiences, we become available to be fully present for the countless small miracles that quietly shape each day. This teaching does not diminish the value of sincere practice, deep meditation, or dedicated study of wisdom traditions. Rather, it reveals their true purpose. Not to accumulate spiritual experiences, not to acquire special powers, but to become so naturally responsive to life that our actions flow effortlessly from clear seeing, rather than from ego-driven seeking. The miracle of eating when hungry extends into every corner of daily life. It means speaking when words are needed and resting in silence when they are not. It means working with full attention when work is required and resting completely when rest arrives. It means feeling emotions fully as they arise, without suppressing them and without being swept away by them. In practical terms, learning to appreciate ordinary miracles begins with what Zen calls beginner's mind. Approaching familiar experiences with fresh attention, as though encountering them for the very first time. Try eating a simple meal with complete presence. Notice not only the flavors, but the astonishing coordination of sensation, memory, and pleasure that makes eating possible at all. Listen closely during a conversation. Marvel at the mysterious way thoughts in one mind somehow travel into another. Notice the miracle of sleep. How awareness dissolves each night and quietly reforms each morning. Witness the daily rebirth of consciousness from the small death of unconsciousness. Observe how dreams arise from nowhere, build entire worlds, feel completely real, and then vanish without a trace. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, can you recognize the miracle in this simple transition from waking to sleeping? Can you sense the extraordinary within the ordinary rhythm of your breath? The gentle weight of your body settling into stillness? The natural release of the day's efforts and concerns? The Buddha taught that if you truly loved yourself, you would never harm yourself with negative thoughts. Perhaps the deepest form of self-love is simply appreciating the miracle of your own existence. Not the ideal version you imagine becoming someday, but the breathing, feeling, aware being you already are. True miracles are not violations of natural law. They are recognitions of the natural law of consciousness itself. The quiet mystery that the universe has somehow awakened to itself through your eyes, experiences itself through your senses, and knows itself through your awareness. When you eat because you are hungry, you participate in the cosmic miracle of life sustaining life. This miracle is real, and it belongs to you. As we continue our journey through the wisdom of Zen Buddhism, let us turn now to a story about a truth so fundamental that it surrounds us completely while remaining unseen. This is the story of the fish and the ocean. In the vast depths of the Pacific, where sunlight filtered down through layers of blue and green, and coral gardens swayed in gentle currents, a young fish swam restlessly through familiar waters. Though surrounded by wonder, schools of silver fish moving like liquid metal, sea anemones dancing with the tide, and the distant pulse of waves above, the young fish felt troubled by a persistent question. One day, Approaching an ancient sea turtle whose shell bore the marks of countless journeys, the young fish asked earnestly, "Elder, I hear others speak of something called the ocean. They speak of it with reverence, as though it is the most important thing that exists. But I have searched everywhere and I cannot find it. What is this ocean?" The turtle's eyes, deep and patient like tidal pools, regarded the young fish with gentle amusement. "Little one," the turtle replied softly, "the ocean is what surrounds you on all sides at every moment." The young fish darted about, looking left and right, swimming upward toward the surface and downward toward the sand. "But I see nothing," the fish said. "There is only water, fish, plants, and rocks. Where is this ocean?" The turtle settled calmly into a bed of kelp, understanding that this teaching required patience. "Of course you cannot see it," the turtle explained. "The ocean is both inside you and outside you. You were born in it. You breathe it. You are nourished by it. And one day, you will return to it. The ocean flows through your gills and around your body as naturally as your scales cover your skin. It is so much a part of you that it has become invisible." The young fish grew still, sensing something vast that had always been present, yet unnamed. "You mean this water?" the fish whispered. "Is the ocean?" "Yes," the turtle replied. "You have never been separate from it. Not for a single moment. As the Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with awareness." This ancient insight illuminates our relationship with the Tao, the fundamental flow of existence that permeates everything, yet remains largely unnoticed. Like the fish who cannot see the ocean, we live immersed in the sacred, yet fail to recognize it because it is too close, too constant, too fundamental to appear separate from ourselves. Why do we struggle to perceive the Tao? Zen points to our habit of seeking the extraordinary while overlooking the ordinary. We search for dramatic signs, while missing the sacred in morning light, in a simple breath, in awareness itself. The Tao expresses itself in everything. In the changing seasons, in sleep and waking, in the heartbeat, in the way thoughts arise and dissolve. It is the same pattern that shapes galaxies and unfurls fern leaves. One movement appearing at every scale. Throughout your day, you may glimpse this flow without recognizing it. In traffic that organizes itself. In conversations finding their rhythm. In solutions that emerge without deliberate effort. These are expressions of the Tao creating order within apparent chaos. As Alan Watts observed, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. The Tao cannot be grasped because we are expressions of it. Every attempt to contain it with thought is like a fish trying to leave the ocean to examine it. This does not make the Tao abstract. It makes it intimate. It is the intelligence coordinating your body, the awareness in which sensations appear, the life force moving through all things. The Tao is not a path leading somewhere else. It is the way walking itself through you, moment by moment, without effort. And now, there is nothing left to do but rest. Lao Tzu once wrote, "The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao." And yet, here we are, using words to gesture towards something that lives beyond words. This is the quiet paradox of all spiritual teaching. We use what is limited to point toward what is limitless, knowing all along that the finger pointing at the moon is never the moon itself. Tonight, as you feel the breath moving in and out of your body without your conscious control, can you sense the Tao expressing itself through this simple miracle? Can you recognize in this effortless rhythm the same intelligence that turns the planets and shifts the seasons? The Buddha taught, "Look within. You are the Buddha. You are not separate from the ocean of existence any more than a wave is separate from the sea." When this fundamental non-separation is recognized, we stop searching for the Tao and begin living as its conscious expression. And now, as our journey through Zen wisdom continues, we turn to a story about contentment and the nature of desire. This is the journey of the stone cutter. High in the mountain villages, there lived a simple stone cutter who had discovered the secret of happiness without knowing it. Each morning at dawn, he climbed the winding paths to the quarries, his tools resting across his shoulders. As he worked among the stones, he sang old mountain songs that echoed softly through the valleys. By society's standards, he was poor. He lived in a modest hut with few possessions. Yet he desired nothing more than what he already had. His life felt complete. The steady rhythm of his labor, the beauty of the mountains, the honest satisfaction of shaping stone. His heart carried no heavy worries. One day, he was summoned to work on the grand mansion of a wealthy nobleman. As he approached the estate, his eyes widened in awe. Marble columns reached toward the sky. Gardens spread out in perfect symmetry. For the first time in his life, a sharp ache of desire pierced his contentment. "If only I were rich," he sighed. "Then I would not have to toil as I do now." To his astonishment, a quiet voice whispered from the stones themselves, "Your wish is granted. From this moment on, whatever you desire shall be given to you." That evening, he returned home to find his humble hut replaced by a mansion as magnificent as the nobleman's. Overwhelmed with delight, he abandoned his tools and embraced the luxurious life of wealth. But one scorching afternoon, as he gazed from an ornate window, he saw the king's royal procession passing below. The monarch sat in cool shade, surrounded by attendants, appearing serene and powerful above the heat endured by others. "How I wish I were a king," the stone cutter thought. And instantly, he found himself reclining on silk cushions inside a royal carriage. Yet the carriage grew warm. Even behind thick walls, the sun's heat pressed relentlessly. "I wish I were the sun," he declared. In a moment, he became radiant and vast, sending waves of light and heat across the universe. For a time, he felt mighty beyond measure. Then dark storm clouds gathered, blocking his rays completely. "I wish to be a cloud," he cried. And so he became a towering storm cloud, glorying in the power to obscure the sun. But as he transformed into rain, he encountered an enormous rock that halted his flow. "A mere rock, stronger than me," he thought. "I wish to be a rock." Suddenly, he stood firm upon the mountainside, feeling immovable, eternal. Soon, he heard the sound of chipping at his base. Looking down, he saw a small human figure cutting away pieces of stone. A tiny creature more powerful than I, he realized. "I want to be a man again." And so, he returned to his former life, once more a stone cutter walking familiar mountain paths. But something within him had changed. As he shaped stone and felt the mountain breeze, his heart filled with a deeper contentment than he had ever known. His song returned, richer and fuller, because he had learned to be at peace with exactly who he was. The Buddha once said, "Health is the greatest gift. Contentment is the greatest wealth." This ancient wisdom reveals the endless cycle of wanting that blinds us to the abundance already present. Why do we keep chasing new conditions, believing happiness lies in the next transformation? Each desire fulfilled only reveals another desire. Each peak reached uncovers another mountain. The stone cutter's journey shows the futility of seeking happiness through external change. You may recognize your own version of this cycle. I'll be happy when I'm promoted. I'll be content with more money. And each time, new worries arise. Zen teacher Suzuki Roshi said, "You are perfect just as you are, and you could use a little improvement." This gentle paradox points to the heart of contentment, fully accepting what is, while still moving naturally with life's changes. The stone cutter's final transformation was not becoming something greater, but appreciating what he had always been. His work stayed the same, but his relationship with life was transformed. Contentment does not come from different experiences, but from bringing a different awareness to whatever arises. Tonight, as you notice the mind reaching for what is not here, can you rest in the stone cutter's final wisdom? Can you hear the song that emerges when you stop trying to be anything other than what you already are? As the Buddha taught, contentment is natural wealth. Luxury is artificial poverty. The greatest transformation is not becoming someone else, but recognizing the completeness of what you already are. And now, we turn to our next story, one that reveals the difference between knowledge and true understanding. This is the tale of the teacher who believed he had arrived. After many years of devoted training, studying countless texts, and committing himself fully to Zen practice, a monk named Tenno achieved a long-sought goal. He was formally recognized as a qualified teacher. His understanding was deep, his meditation steady, his ability to guide others carefully tested and approved. With pride in his accomplishment and a desire for refinement, Tenno decided to visit the renowned Zen master Nanin. It was a rainy day when Tenno arrived at the temple. The roads were slick with mud. Gray skies reflected in puddles. He carried an umbrella to shield himself from the rain. At the entrance, he removed his wooden clogs, placed his umbrella neatly, adjusted his robes, and entered with care. Nanin received him graciously, bowing with courtesy, his presence calm and grounded, holding the quiet dignity of deep experience. And so, the lesson was about to begin. They sat together in the quiet receiving room. Tenno expected their meeting to unfold around refined doctrine, subtle meditation methods, or the challenges of guiding students. Instead, after a few simple courtesies, Master Nanin asked a question so ordinary that it seemed almost absurd. "When you entered," he said softly, "I noticed you placed your wooden clogs and your umbrella on the porch. Tell me, did you set your umbrella to the left of your shoes or to the right?" Tenno froze. Of all the profound matters they might discuss, why would this great master ask about something so trivial? He searched his memory, replaying the moment in his mind. But slowly, with growing unease, he realized the truth. He did not know. He had been so focused on the importance of the meeting, so absorbed in the image of an impressive exchange, that he had placed his belongings without any awareness at all. "I don't know," Tenno finally admitted, his voice barely audible. In that quiet confession, something deeper revealed itself. Here he was, a recognized teacher of mindfulness, unable to recall an action performed just moments before. Master Nanin smiled gently. There was no trace of judgment, only compassion. "Then," he said calmly, "you have not yet realized complete awareness. Someone who is truly awake," he continued, brings attention to every moment, every movement, every detail of experience. The way you place your shoes is the same awareness you bring to meditation. The way you set down an umbrella reflects the same mind with which you teach and live. In that instant, Tenno's pride quietly dissolved. What remained was a clear and humbling insight. Awareness was not something he had achieved and possessed. It was something to be lived, moment by moment. True presence, he understood, must be renewed continuously, not only in formal practice but in the simplest acts of daily life. Without hesitation, Tenno asked to become Nanin's student. For 10 years, he trained under the master's guidance, learning to place his shoes with the same care he gave to seated meditation, to handle an umbrella with the same reverence as sacred texts. When he finally left the temple, he was no longer the same teacher. He understood now that enlightenment is not a destination, but a way of traveling. Not an accomplishment, but a living practice of complete presence. The Buddha once observed, "If you wish to know your past, look at your present condition. If you wish to know your future, look at your present actions." This story reminds us that spiritual maturity is not measured by peak experiences, but by the quality of attention we bring to ordinary moments. Why do we believe awakening exists only in special circumstances? Only in meditation halls or elevated states? Zen teaches that awakening is found exactly where you are, whether sitting in silence or placing an umbrella beside your shoes. Tenno's mistake was a common one. He could be mindful during designated practice, yet unconscious during daily tasks. Present while meditating, absent while living. This division between spiritual moments and ordinary moments is one of the subtlest traps on the path. We imagine awareness as something we switch on for meditation and turn off for routine. But true practice has no off switch. Consider your own day. How present are you while brushing your teeth? While making tea? While putting on your shoes? Do these moments receive the same care as those you label important? Zen Master Dogen taught, "Practice and enlightenment are one. The path and the destination are not separate. Every moment is a complete opportunity for awakening." Nanin's question was never about umbrellas. It was about whether awareness had reached the cellular level of Tenno's life. The Buddha said, "Mindfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death. To be fully alive is to be fully present. And full presence can be cultivated in any activity, no matter how simple." Tonight, as your body begins to rest, notice the small actions. The settling of breath, the weight of your limbs, the quiet placing of attention right here. There is nothing more to achieve. Just this moment, fully lived. The quiet paradox is that the most ordinary moments often offer the greatest doorway to awakening. When we sit in formal meditation, we expect ourselves to be mindful. But when we are simply arranging our belongings, washing our hands, or completing routine tasks, we discover whether our practice has truly taken root or whether it lives only in special settings. In Zen monasteries, students are taught that washing dishes is as sacred as chanting sutras, that sweeping the floor is as meaningful as studying philosophy. Not because these actions are special in themselves, but because the quality of awareness we bring to any action determines its spiritual depth. Thich Nhat Hanh once wrote, "Washing dishes is not only to have clean dishes. Washing dishes is a way to live fully in each moment." This is the heart of the teaching Nanin offered Tenno. Every action is an invitation to complete presence. Tenno's years of training had refined his awareness during formal practice, yet it had not fully flowed into the quiet habits of daily life. He could be conscious when he intended to be conscious, but consciousness had not yet become his natural resting state. This is the difference between spiritual knowledge and spiritual maturity. It is easy to be mindful when we remember to be mindful. The deeper practice is cultivating awareness that remains present even when we are not thinking about it. Tonight, as you move through the simple rituals that close your day, brushing your teeth, changing clothes, placing items for tomorrow, can you offer the same gentle attention you might give to formal meditation? Can you sense whether awareness has reached the unconscious rhythms that shape so much of life? The Buddha taught that every moment is a teacher and every place a classroom. The umbrella beside the shoes became Tenno's teacher, revealing exactly where his practice needed to deepen. Often, the most profound lessons arrive disguised as the simplest questions, asked by those wise enough to see that awakening is not found by escaping the ordinary, but by discovering the sacred hidden within it. And now, we turn to a story about the thin boundary between heaven and hell, a boundary that lives within our own hearts. This is the story of the samurai and the gates. In feudal Japan, a battle-hardened warrior named Noiga sought out the Zen master Hakuin. His armor bore the marks of many campaigns, and his eyes carried the weight of a man who had witnessed too much violence. He approached the master's simple dwelling with a question that had followed him since his last battle. "Master Hakuin," Noiga said, bowing stiffly beneath his armor, "I have spent my life facing death. Tell me honestly, is there truly a heaven and a hell waiting for us after death?" Hakuin looked up from his tea, his gaze calm and penetrating. "And who are you," he asked quietly, "to ask such a question?" "I am a samurai," Noiga replied with pride, straightening his posture. "I serve my lord with honor and have never retreated from battle." Hakuin's expression hardened. "You," he scoffed, "a warrior? What ruler would choose someone like you as a protector? Look at yourself. Your face is rough and weathered, like a common beggar. How could someone so crude claim honor?" The words struck Noiga like blows. His face burned. His hand moved instinctively toward his sword. "So you carry a blade?" Hakuin continued, his voice sharp with mockery. "It is likely too dull to cut even my head. I doubt you could slice through paper, let alone defend anyone." Noiga's rage erupted. Unable to restrain himself, he drew his sword. The steel sang as it left the scabbard. His body trembled. His vision narrowed to a single point. At that exact moment, Hakuin spoke with sudden clarity. "Here," he said, "the gates of hell are opening." The words cut through Noiga's fury. In an instant he saw himself clearly, consumed by anger, ready to kill over wounded pride. He understood then that hell was not a distant realm, but the state he occupied in that very moment. His hand froze. Slowly, with great care, he sheathed his sword and bowed deeply. His anger dissolved into gratitude. "And here," Hakuin said softly, his voice now gentle, "the gates of heaven open." The Buddha taught, hatred is never ended by hatred. Only by love is hatred ended. This is an eternal truth. This story reveals a profound map of our inner world. Heaven and hell are not places we travel to. They are experiences we create through the quality of our consciousness. Why do we so easily find ourselves at the gates of suffering? Zen points to the three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. When Noiga's pride was wounded, hatred arose instantly, transforming peace into torment. In a single moment, his world changed. The deeper teaching reminds us that both heaven and hell live within us. They are not destinations after death, but states we inhabit while alive. Tonight, as your body rests, notice the quiet space before emotion arises, before reaction forms. Here, the gates remain open. Each moment gently places before us a quiet choice, the hell of unconscious reaction or the paradise of clear awareness. Notice how often this subtle turning happens throughout your day. A critical message appears, and a calm morning slowly transforms into a landscape of tension and worry. A sudden interruption on the road, and the open space of your drive tightens into irritation. A careless remark from someone nearby, and ease dissolves into hurt and silent defense. In Zen practice, we patiently learn to recognize these thresholds. Just as the warrior once reached for his sword, we begin to notice the instant when we are about to step into suffering through our reactions. This simple noticing becomes the key that opens another gate. Zen master Huangpa taught, "Ordinary people reject what they see, not what they think. The wise reject what they think, not what they see." When we are caught in reactivity, we are turning away from the present moment itself, choosing our thoughts about how things should be over the living reality before us. The Buddha reminded us, better than 1,000 empty words is one word that brings peace. What appeared as harshness from the master was, in truth, compassion wearing a fierce mask. By skillfully stirring anger, he revealed its nature clearly. Hell was never a distant realm, it was a state entered through choice. This teaching invites quiet reflection. What words, tones, or situations instantly pull you into suffering? Perhaps it is feeling unseen, misunderstood, or faced with sudden difficulty. Each encounter offers the same gentle decision. Will you react, or will you recognize the teaching hidden in the moment? As irritation arises tonight, can you remember this lesson? Can you sense the doorway and choose awareness instead? As the Buddha taught, what we repeatedly think, we become. In every breath, we are opening one gate or the other. Now, let us drift into another story, one that reveals the relationship between outer struggle and inner training. This is the tale of the horse and the mind. In a remote mountain region, where execution grounds quietly reminded all of impermanence, the Zen master Bankai tested the depth of his realization. For several nights, he sat in meditation near symbols of death, using their presence to deepen his understanding of life. After completing this retreat, Bankai wandered to a nearby place to rest. He lay upon an embankment beside a horse corral, gazing into the open sky, resting in silence. Suddenly, the stillness shattered. From within the enclosure came the sharp crack of a whip, the cries of a frightened horse, and the angry shouts of a man overtaken by frustration. Bankai watched with concern. The warrior's inner turmoil spilled outward, striking the innocent animal. Each blow increased the horse's panic, feeding a cycle of fear and violence. Unable to remain silent, the master called out, asking what was happening. The man, consumed by anger, did not respond. The beating continued, growing harsher. Again Bankai spoke, his voice calm yet firm, shaped by years of inner cultivation. This time, something reached the warrior. He stopped, climbed down, and approached. As he drew closer, his expression softened. The presence before him carried a quiet authority. "You called to me," the warrior said, anger now mixed with curiosity. Bankai looked at him with compassion, seeing not cruelty, but confusion. He replied simply, suggesting that instead of striking the horse, the man might train his own mind. The words lingered between them, opening a new way of seeing. The Buddha taught, conquer anger with non-anger, harm with goodness, falsehood with truth. This was the essence of the teaching offered. External struggle mirrors the inner state. Force cannot bring harmony. So often we try to shape life through control, criticism, or resistance. We blame circumstances, people, or events, unaware that the real work is inward. Zen calls this pushing the river, exhausting ourselves by fighting what flows naturally. Consider how this appears in daily life. A failing device becomes the target of rage, when the deeper cause is attachment to perfection. Traffic awakens fury, when the real pain lies in expectation. A loved one resists advice, and frustration grows, rooted in the need to control. In each case, we strike the horse, forgetting the mind. The horse is life's unpredictability, other people, nature, chance, change. As one teacher gently wrote, "You are the sky. Everything else is weather." When we stop trying to control the storm, we discover a vast awareness that remains at ease, whatever passes through. The true training is learning to work gently with our own minds, rather than trying to force the world to bend to our wishes. This does not mean becoming passive or accepting harm, but meeting each challenge from a place of inner steadiness instead of restless reaction. Buddhist practice offers quiet and practical ways to cultivate this inner strength. Mindfulness meditation teaches us to observe our habits of reaction without being carried away by them. Loving-kindness practice softens the heart, allowing compassion to arise when life does not unfold as expected. Reflection on impermanence reminds us that all conditions change, and nothing can be held forever. Tonight, as small frustrations naturally appear, can you remember the teaching of Bankai? When you feel the urge to strike against difficult circumstances, can you pause and ask yourself, what would it mean in this moment to train my own mind? The Buddha taught that hatred is never ended by hatred, but only by non-hatred. This is an ancient and timeless law. Peace does not come from conquering the outer world, but from cultivating inner qualities that remain calm and balanced no matter what arises. Let us continue with a story that reveals the power of inner balance in the face of changing conditions. This is the teaching of Master Hakuin and the quiet strength of, "Is that so?" Hakuin lived in a small village where he was deeply respected for his wisdom, compassion, and simple integrity. For many years, he was known as a teacher who embodied the highest ideals, someone believed to have moved beyond ordinary human weakness. Villagers often came to him with their troubles, trusting both his words and his way of life. In the same village lived a young woman from a respected family. When she became pregnant outside of marriage, scandal spread quickly through the community. Her parents, filled with anger and shame, demanded to know who was responsible. At first, the young woman remained silent, protecting the man she loved from ruin. But as the pressure grew unbearable, fear overtook her. In confusion and desperation, she named the one person she believed could endure such blame, the revered Master Hakuin. When her furious parents confronted him, they expected denial or protest. Instead, Hakuin listened quietly and replied with only 3 words, spoken calmly, "Is that so?" His composure seemed to confirm their suspicions. Soon the village turned against him. Those who once praised him now whispered of hypocrisy. His reputation collapsed, and many students abandoned him. When the child was born, the parents brought the infant to Hakuin and left it in his care. Again, he simply said, "Is that so?" and accepted the child without resistance. For months, he raised the baby with gentle devotion, feeding, cleaning, pacing the floor through sleepless nights. Though shunned and scorned, having lost honor and livelihood, his heart remained steady and kind. Meanwhile, the young woman's guilt deepened. Seeing an innocent man suffer for her lie became unbearable. At last, she confessed the truth. Her parents, stricken with remorse, rushed to Hakuin to apologize and take the child back. He listened as calmly as before, and as he returned the baby, he spoke the same quiet words, "Is that so?" As the Buddha reminded us, hatred is never ended by hatred, but only by love. This story reveals the deep power of inner equanimity, remaining balanced regardless of praise or blame, honor or disgrace. Zen teaches that true freedom arises when our inner center no longer depends on how others see us, but rests peacefully within, unmoved by the changing winds of the world. Hakuin's simple reply, "Is that so?" reveals a profound spiritual discipline. He was not being cold or indifferent, nor was he surrendering to helplessness. He was embodying deep non-attachment to reputation, status, and even to the need for justice to appear immediately. His steady response showed that his sense of worth arose from within, not from praise or approval offered by others. Consider how most of us respond to false accusations, public shame, or the loss of respect. The instinct is to defend ourselves, to argue, to demand that others recognize the truth. Hakuin's way points to another possibility, meeting every circumstance with the same quiet acceptance. This does not mean we must never speak up or protect ourselves. The teaching is more subtle than that. It shows us that inner peace does not have to depend on life being fair or people being kind. We can remain centered even when conditions are difficult. The Buddha taught, "You will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger." Hakuin's equanimity protected him from adding extra suffering through resentment, bitterness, or desperate attempts to restore his name. The situation was painful, yet he did not multiply the pain by resisting it inwardly. Look gently at your own reactions to criticism, misunderstanding, or unfair treatment. How much of your suffering comes from the event itself, and how much arises from your thoughts and emotions about it? Hakuin's example reminds us that while we may not control what happens to us, we have great influence over how we meet it. Tonight, as judgments or misunderstandings appear, can you remember Master Hakuin's peaceful, "Is that so?" Can you sense the space between what happens and how you respond? In that space, you may discover that your inner peace does not need to be held hostage by external conditions. The Buddha taught that peace comes from within. Do not seek it outside yourself. True spiritual growth is not measured by how gently life treats us, but by how calmly and compassionately we meet whatever life offers. Now, let us turn to a story about the limits of conceptual understanding and the deeper way of seeing beyond ideas. This is the teaching often called 3 strikes and the vision beyond thinking. In a mountain monastery where the 6th patriarch Huineng taught, students traveled from far away to learn from the master whose realization was said to be profound and direct. Among them was a gifted young monk named Xin Hui, known for his sharp intellect and love of philosophical inquiry. Unlike many students who asked simple questions, Shenhui often challenged the master with refined and complex ideas. One quiet afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the hall and the monastery moved gently through its daily rhythm, Shenhui found the patriarch sitting in stillness. His posture was relaxed yet alert, his presence calm and awake. Seeing an opportunity, Shenhui approached with a question that had occupied his mind during meditation. "Master," he asked respectfully, with confidence in his reasoning, "when you sit in meditation, do you see or do you not see?" To Shenhui, this was a meaningful question. Did awakening involve special visions? Did enlightenment mean seeing something extraordinary or seeing nothing at all? Without warning, the patriarch lifted his teaching stick and struck Shenhui 3 times. The blows were sharp enough to sting, leaving the young monk startled and confused. Calmly, the master asked, "When I hit you, does it hurt or not?" Shenhui rubbed his shoulder, his mind racing. The sensation was real, yet he sensed the question pointed beyond the physical. "It both hurts and does not hurt," he answered carefully. "I both see and do not see," the patriarch replied, speaking from direct experience rather than theory. But Shenhui's intellect was not satisfied. "How can that be?" he asked. "Either you see or you do not. How can both be true?" The patriarch looked at him patiently, like someone guiding a student beyond the narrow gate of dualistic thinking, toward a deeper understanding that cannot be captured by words alone. "What I see," the master explained with gentle clarity, "are the subtle movements and wanderings of my own mind. What I do not see are the labels of right and wrong, good and bad, that we so easily place upon others. This is my seeing, and this is my not seeing." With these words, the heart of the teaching became clear. He was not speaking of mystical visions or extraordinary states, but of a quiet transformation in perception that unfolds with genuine spiritual maturity. Ancient Buddhist wisdom reminds us, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. This truth resonates deeply with the patriarch's teaching about awakened seeing. Why do we feel confused when spiritual teachings move beyond ordinary logic? Zen explains that the conceptual mind operates through pairs of opposites: seeing or not seeing, pain or no pain, right or wrong. Awakened awareness does not erase these experiences. Instead, it changes how we relate to them. The deeper teaching reveals what true spiritual perception really is. The patriarch clearly sees his own inner processes, the arising and fading of thoughts, emotions, and reactions. This is not a supernatural ability, but the natural fruit of sustained mindfulness. He witnesses the mind's wavering and wandering without becoming lost within it. At the same time, he does not see in the sense of judging others, of fixing them as good or bad, right or wrong. This kind of non-seeing is not ignorance, but wisdom. It recognizes that our judgments often reveal more about ourselves than about those we observe. Look gently at your own habits of perception. How much of what you believe you see in others is actually a reflection of your own inner patterns? When someone irritates you, are you truly seeing their behavior, or are you meeting your own triggers? When someone impresses you, are you seeing their authentic qualities, or your own longing for approval and success? This ancient teaching illuminates the difference between reactive perception and clear seeing. Reactive perception is shaped by conditioning, emotional needs, and habitual judgments. Clear seeing is awareness that recognizes its own movements while remaining open to what is present. Zen Master Dogen taught, to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. This points to the same insight offered by the patriarch. True seeing turns inward, observing the mind itself rather than becoming lost in evaluating the world. The 3 strikes Shin Hui received were not punishment, but compassionate instruction. Pain that both does and does not hurt points to the mystery of awareness itself. Sensation arises, is fully felt, yet does not confine the awareness that knows it. In the same way, thoughts and emotions arise within consciousness without staining its essential clarity. Imagine how this understanding might soften your daily life. Instead of constantly judging, comparing, or forming opinions about others, what if you turned that same attention toward observing your own reactions? What patterns would you notice in the wandering of your mind? This does not mean becoming passive or losing discernment. It means responding from clarity rather than habit. When judgments are clearly seen, they loosen their grip. When projections are recognized, they lose the power to masquerade as truth. Zen practice cultivates what is called mirror mind, awareness that reflects whatever appears without clinging or resistance. The mirror shows everything clearly, yet remains untouched. Tonight, as your mind gently categorizes the events of the day, can you remember the patriarch's teaching? Can you turn your attention toward the one who sees, rather than constantly judging what is seen? In doing so, you may discover a quiet freedom, seeing your own mental movements without being ruled by them. The Buddha spoke of this kindness toward oneself when he said, "You yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." By meeting our own minds with compassion rather than criticism, we learn to see others with the same gentle understanding. Let us continue with a story about discovering the source of true freedom, a story of a student and the heart of his teacher. In a peaceful monastery garden, where cherry blossoms drifted like falling snow, a young student approached his teacher during evening meditation. The master sat beneath an old maple tree, twilight washing the sky in soft shades of gold and violet. The student had practiced earnestly for years, yet lately deeper questions had begun to surface. Sitting beside his teacher, he spoke quietly. "Master, when I was young, I longed for my family to be proud of me. I wanted to achieve things that would bring them joy. Were you ever the same?" The master met his gaze with warmth and recognition. After a moment of silence, he replied, "Yes, I was very much the same." Relief passed through the student. "Why did you desire their pride so strongly?" he asked. "What was driving that need?" The master smiled gently. "I wanted them to feel they had more reason to love and accept me. If they were proud, I believed their love would be secure. But the reason went even deeper." The student leaned closer. "I sought their love," the master continued softly, "because I believed it would give me permission to love myself. Their approval would prove my worth, even in my own eyes. That was the root of all my striving." He paused, watching the first stars appear. "Then one day, something changed. I realized I could ask a different question. What if I could love and accept myself without waiting for anyone else's approval?" The student felt a quiet opening in his chest. "What if my happiness," the master said, "did not depend on praise or blame? What if my sense of worth could be as steady as my breath, independent of all outer validation?" The student understood that his teacher was pointing toward a freedom he had never imagined. "And that realization," he said softly, began your journey toward awakening. Yes, the master replied, nodding gently. That was the moment my true spiritual journey truly began. The master continued softly. Not by searching for something outside myself, but by recognizing what had always been whole within. After a long, contemplative silence, the student asked, "Did you never again wish for their pride? Did that longing disappear completely?" The master laughed gently, like wind moving through leaves. "Oh no, the ego did not vanish so easily. Conditioned habits do not dissolve overnight. The desire for approval still arose. But something essential had changed. I no longer believed that desire was who I was." He gestured toward the garden, now dim in the evening light, where fireflies had begun their slow, shimmering dance. I learned to watch those approval-seeking thoughts the way I watch these lights. They appear, they glow for a moment, and they fade. I could see them with kindness and curiosity, without allowing them to define my worth. "So you still cared what others thought?" the student asked quietly. "I respected their views," the master replied. "I listened and honored their perspectives. But I no longer allowed them to weigh so heavily upon my heart. Their approval became like the weather, sometimes pleasant, sometimes unpleasant, but no longer the force that determined my inner peace." A quiet joy radiated from the master's face. Never had I felt so free. It was as if I had been carrying invisible chains for decades, unaware of their weight, and suddenly they fell away. The love I had been seeking from the world revealed itself as something that had always lived within me. The Buddha's wisdom reminds us that if we truly loved ourselves, we would never harm ourselves with destructive thoughts, words, or choices. This points directly to the heart of the master's realization. Much of human suffering arises from the mistaken belief that we must earn the right to love ourselves through success, approval, or achievement. Here lies one of the most liberating truths of the path. Self-love is not a prize to be won. It is our natural inheritance. We are complete and worthy not because of what we accomplish, but because we exist. Why, then, is unconditional self-love so difficult? From an early age, many of us absorb the message that love must be earned through good behavior, high achievement, or pleasing others. We learn to speak to ourselves the way we were spoken to, often with judgment and conditions. Over time, these patterns feel normal, while self-acceptance feels unfamiliar. Our culture deepens this conditioning, constantly suggesting that happiness lies somewhere outside of us. Each message quietly reinforces the belief that we are lacking, that something essential is missing. Consider how much energy is spent managing others' opinions. How often do you soften your truth to gain approval? How much of your sense of worth depends on external feedback rather than a quiet recognition of your inherent value? When we love ourselves without conditions, we build a steady foundation. We can enjoy affection without clinging to it. We can receive praise with gratitude instead of hunger, and meet criticism without collapse, because our core remains untouched. The Buddha taught, you can search throughout the entire universe for someone more deserving of your love and affection than yourself, and that person will not be found. You yourself deserve your love and care. This is not selfishness. It is recognition of a fundamental truth about awareness itself. Tonight, as you rest in stillness, notice the presence that is aware of these words. This awareness, watching thoughts arise and pass, is neither improved nor diminished by what happens. It remains open and clear, like the night sky. What would it feel like to treat this presence with gentleness? To offer yourself the patience you would give a child learning to walk, or the compassion you would offer a dear friend in pain? As the Buddha taught, hatred is never ended by hatred. Only by non-hatred is hatred healed. Self-criticism is never cured by more self-criticism. Only through meeting ourselves exactly as we are does true transformation begin. In discovering this unconditional love within, we realize that the freedom we sought through others' approval has always been here, quietly beating within our own hearts. Let us continue now with a story about fearlessness and unconditional compassion. This is the tale of the thief and the Zen master. One quiet evening, as twilight washed the sky in shades of violet and gold, Zen master Shikiri Kojin sat alone in his humble home, softly reciting ancient sutras. His voice flowed gently through the still rooms, each syllable steady, each breath calm. Candlelight flickered against the walls as he rested fully within the familiar rhythm of the sacred words. Without warning, the silence was broken. The front door burst open with a violent crash. A desperate man rushed inside, gripping a sharp sword that caught the candle's glow. His eyes were wild, his clothes torn and dusty, his breath ragged from running. He had chosen this lonely house believing it an easy target. A monk, after all, would not resist. "Money or your life?" the thief demanded, his voice shaking with fear and aggression intertwined. He had assumed the old monk would tremble, would beg for mercy, or rush about in panic to gather whatever small treasures he might have hidden away. Yet Shikiri did not even lift his eyes from the sutra resting in his hands. His voice stayed calm and even, continuing the gentle rhythm of chanting for a few breaths before he finally spoke to the intruder. "Please do not interrupt my practice," he said softly, with the same tone one might use to ask a guest to lower their voice. "If you need money, you may take it. It is in that drawer over there." He motioned casually toward a plain wooden chest, then returned at once to his recitation, as though nothing unusual had entered the room. The thief stood motionless, his sword still raised, confusion washing over his face. In all his years of stealing, he had never been met like this. There was no fear, no pleading, no anger, only simple, matter-of-fact kindness, as though he were a neighbor stopping by to borrow a tool. Shaking his head in disbelief, yet continuing with what he had come to do, the thief walked to the drawer and began gathering the coins and small valuables inside. Behind him, the master's voice flowed on, sacred words filling the room with the same peaceful cadence, as if he were entirely alone. Just as the thief prepared to leave with his bundle, the voice behind him spoke again. "Wait," Shikiri said, at last looking up from the page. "Please do not take everything. I will need some of that money to pay my taxes tomorrow. Would you leave a little for me?" The thief stared, stunned. Here was a man calmly negotiating his own robbery, as if discussing ordinary business. Almost without awareness, the thief placed some of the coins back into the drawer. Turning toward the door, certain the strange encounter had finally ended, he was stopped once more. "You have taken my money," Shikiri called out gently, a faint note of reproach in his voice, "and you did not even thank me. That is rather impolite, wouldn't you say?" This final remark left the thief completely shaken. His hand began to tremble. Never, even in his most violent moments, had he felt so undone. This man treated robbery as a gift and cared more for courtesy than for his own safety. "Thank you," the thief whispered at last, then fled into the night as fast as his legs could carry him. Much later, when the thief was captured and confessed to many crimes, including the incident at Shikiri's home, the master was summoned to court. The officials expected him to demand punishment, to describe fear and violation. Instead, Shikiri spoke with the same clear calm he had shown that evening. "This man did not steal from me," he said. "I gave him the money freely. He even thanked me for it, though he needed a small reminder." As these words were spoken, something opened in the thief's chest. This man had shown him kindness during the crime itself and now was shielding him from further harm. For the first time in many years, tears filled his eyes, not tears of anger or self-pity, but tears of recognition. He had encountered something utterly unfamiliar, love without conditions. After his release, the former thief sought out the master and asked to become his student. Under Shikiri's patient guidance, he learned to cultivate the same fearless compassion he had witnessed that night. Years passed, and through steady practice and the master's unwavering trust in his capacity to change, he came to rest in deep peace and understanding. As the Buddha taught, hatred is not ended by hatred, but only by love. This is an eternal truth. From this story we glimpse the quiet power of meeting violence with peace, answering taking with giving, and responding to fear with love. Why do we so quickly believe force must be met with force, that aggression demands resistance? Zen shows that this habit, though common, often sustains the very suffering it tries to end. When hostility meets hostility, the cycle tightens. When compassion appears, not as weakness, but as conscious love, space for transformation opens. Look gently into your own life. When anger, criticism, or demand comes toward you, what arises first within? Most of us tense, defend, or withdraw. Notice how the body hardens, how the mind contracts. Does this lessen suffering or deepen it? Shikiri's response reveals what Zen calls skillful means, action born from wisdom rather than reflex. His fearlessness did not come from ignoring danger, but from understanding its source. He saw the thief's violence as the fruit of desperation and pain, not as proof of an evil self. By refusing to make him an enemy, he allowed the man to glimpse another way of being. Zen practice invites us into the courage of openness. This does not mean foolishness or needless harm, but the strength to respond from clarity instead of habit. As the Buddha said, in the end only three things matter: how deeply we have lived, how fully we have loved, and how completely we have learned to let go. Shikiri embodied all three. He lived in presence, loved without condition, and released attachment to possessions and even to safety itself. Think of those who challenge you: the difficult colleague, the critical relative, the impatient stranger. What might it mean to meet their energy with the same steady compassion? Not by agreeing or submitting, but by refusing to mirror their agitation, by staying rooted in your own quiet center. Tonight, as moments of tension arise, remember the master who welcomed a robber like a guest. Can you sense the small pause between stimulus and response, the place where choice lives? There, you may choose peace over reaction, giving over grasping, love over fear. The Buddha reminds us that better than 1,000 empty words is a single word that brings peace. Sometimes the strongest answer to violence is simply remaining unshaken in compassion, trusting that love transforms where force cannot. And now, let us drift into another Zen tale, one that speaks of the subtle power of direct transmission beyond words. This is the story of Bankei and the messenger. In a bustling capital filled with merchants' calls and scholars' debates, the renowned Zen master Bankei had completed another period of teaching at a great temple. Known for guiding students straight toward their own Buddha nature, he lived simply, traveling from place to place wherever sincere seekers gathered. As he prepared to leave, folding his few belongings into a travel bundle, a finely dressed gentleman approached with respectful urgency. His silk robes and careful manners suggested a man accustomed to noble circles. "Venerable master," he said with a deep bow, "I bring a request from my lord, a baron of learning and sincere interest in your teaching. He longs to meet you, but pressing duties have delayed him today. Would you consider staying one more day so he might receive your guidance tomorrow?" Though eager to continue his journey, Bankei sensed the sincerity behind the words. The path of teaching often calls for patience. "Very well," he replied simply. "I will remain one more day." He unpacked his bundle and spent the evening in quiet meditation, preparing for what he believed would be a meaningful meeting. He had known many nobles who approached Zen with humility, and he felt ready to offer whatever might help. Morning came with clear light and the sound of bells. Bankei waited at the appointed hour, yet instead of the baron, the same messenger returned, his face heavy with embarrassment. "Master," he said softly, "I bring unfortunate news. The baron has been called away on urgent affairs of state that could not be postponed. Yet his longing for your guidance has not faded," the man continued softly. "He has asked me to stand in his place, to receive your teaching on his behalf, and to carry your wisdom back to him with complete faithfulness." The gentleman paused, hope flickering in his eyes that such an arrangement might be accepted. "The baron's question," he went on, "concerns the very nature of mind. He wishes to know what consciousness truly is, and how one may realize it directly. If you would share your understanding, I vow to repeat every word exactly as you speak it." Bankei listened with quiet attentiveness, his face open and kind. When the request was finished, the master remained still for a long moment, as though holding not only the question, but the whole scene within his awareness: the absent seeker, the sincere messenger, and the deep impossibility hidden inside the request itself. At last, Bankei spoke with his usual simplicity. "The matter of Zen," he said gently, "is difficult enough to express even when teacher and student sit face to face. To attempt to transmit it through a messenger, no matter how earnest or capable, is truly impossible." Having said this, he fell silent. He did not elaborate or explain further. He simply sat, calm and unmoving, embodying the very truth his words pointed toward. The gentleman waited, perhaps expecting clarification or another teaching. None came. Eventually, finding no words of his own, he bowed respectfully and withdrew from the temple. The Buddha once said, "Be a lamp unto yourself." This quiet truth reveals itself in Bankei's gentle refusal to turn Zen into a message that could be carried secondhand. Awakening is not information to be delivered, but transformation to be lived. Why do we so often approach the spiritual path as if it were academic knowledge, something that can be gathered, summarized, and passed along? Zen teaches that realization is not a concept to be understood, but a reality to be directly known. Like the taste of water to one who is thirsty, it cannot be explained well enough. It must be tasted. The Baron's question about consciousness reflects a common habit. We want to grasp awareness intellectually, to define it, to possess it as understanding. Yet consciousness cannot become an object of study because it is the very subject that studies. It is like trying to see your own eyes without a mirror. The seeing itself is what you are trying to see. Notice how often you may treat spiritual wisdom as information rather than lived truth. We read about meditation instead of sitting in silence. We collect descriptions of enlightenment instead of examining our present experience. We ask what mind is, rather than gently looking at what we are calling mind right now. Zen Master Dogen taught that to study the Buddha way is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self. This paradox points directly to why true transmission must be immediate. The self that wants to understand Buddhism intellectually is the very structure that needs to be seen through. And this seeing through does not come from accumulation, but from intimate awareness of what is already here. The messenger in this story mirrors our own tendency to approach awakening indirectly. We want to observe consciousness from a safe distance, preserving the feeling that we are separate from what we study. Yet awareness is not something we have. It is what we are. It cannot be owned, explained, or delivered, because every moment of experience already arises within it. Bankai's silence after his brief reply was itself a teaching. In Zen, silence often speaks more clearly than words. The spaces between thoughts, the pause between breaths, the open field in which sensations appear, these cannot be captured by language, but they can be recognized when we stop trying to grasp them. This does not mean teachers are unnecessary or guidance is meaningless. Rather, true teaching points inward. It invites students to discover their own direct experience instead of relying on borrowed insight. A teacher does not give enlightenment, but helps create the conditions in which recognition may occur. Tonight, as you rest with the simple fact of being aware of these words, aware of your body, aware of the quiet space in which thoughts drift, can you look directly at this awareness without turning it into an idea? Can you stay present with experience itself, instead of reaching for explanations? As the Buddha taught, work out your own liberation with care. No one can walk this path in your place. It requires your own steps, your own breath, your own willingness to see what has always been here, patiently waiting to be recognized. And now, let us continue with another gentle story about a young monk who believed he had failed on his path. This is known as the story of the Golden Wake. In a quiet monastery overlooking a still mountain lake, a young student sat heavily upon the temple steps, his shoulders bowed, as the sun slowly descended toward the water below. His shoulders drooped beneath the quiet weight of discouragement, and his eyes mirrored the heaviness resting in his chest. For many months, he had struggled with his studies, unable to absorb the deep teachings that seemed to flow so effortlessly into the minds of his fellow monks. "The boat is coming to take me home," he said softly to his teacher, who had approached without sound and sat beside him. "I have failed here at the monastery. What can I say to my family? They sent me with such hope, believing I would return as a learned monk, able to guide others along the path." The old teacher gazed across the lake, where a small wooden boat was gliding slowly over the glassy surface. The sinking sun washed the water and sky in hues of gold and amber. "Tell them that you did your best," the teacher replied gently, his voice shaped by many seasons of living. "That is all anyone can ever truly do." "But I wanted to become a great monk," the boy answered, his words heavy with sorrow. I dreamed of teaching others, of leading meditation, of having students seek my guidance, of making a real difference in the world. You can, the teacher said simply. How? The boy asked, lifting his eyes in confusion. I could not even memorize the basic sutras. I fell asleep during meditation. I failed at everything that mattered. The teacher smiled and gestured toward the lake. Live from your heart, he said. I will show you. Do you see that boat crossing the water, with the sun resting behind it? Yes, the boy replied, following his teacher's gaze. Do you see the wake spreading behind it? The teacher continued. Notice how the boat forms the point of a golden triangle as the ripples fan outward from its bow. The boy narrowed his eyes, trying to see more clearly. Gently, the teacher said with patience, that boat is you. As you leave the monastery, the lake is your life. The wake is the influence you will have upon the world. Each ripple touches another ripple, which touches another still. By simply striving to live with wisdom and kindness, you teach the path of love to everyone you meet, without speaking a word. Some of those people, he went on, will carry your example onward, passing it to others. In this way, the widening golden wake of good actions gives rise to more goodness. And notice this most of all, each ripple catches the sunlight and reflects it back toward the sky. The boy watched in quiet wonder as the boat continued its journey. The wake truly did form an ever-expanding triangle of light across the water. Each small wave held the sun for a moment, sending it back in countless shimmering reflections. Would you come home with me? The boy asked softly, hope beginning to glow in his voice, and explain all of this to my father? The Buddha taught, a candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. The deeper truth revealed here is that influence does not arise from titles or perfect understanding, but from the quiet sincerity of a heart devoted to goodness. Why do we believe that only recognition, credentials, or achievement allow us to matter? Zen wisdom points to our attachment to appearances and to our misunderstanding of how insight truly flows from one life to another. We imagine teaching requires a platform, a robe, or a name. Yet the most enduring lessons are transmitted through presence, through tone, through the way we move through ordinary moments. Consider how often your own life has been touched, not by expertise, but by kindness. The shopkeeper who greets you with warmth. The stranger who offers help without expectation. The friend who listens in silence, without judgment. These simple encounters create ripples far beyond what can be measured. In Zen practice, this is sometimes called silent teaching. It is the natural transmission that happens when our actions align with our deepest values. Like the boat upon the lake, we may never see our own wake, yet it spreads behind us all the same, reaching shores we may never visit. The Buddha said, thousands of candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be diminished. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Each moment lived with sincerity becomes a teaching. Each act of compassion sends a ripple outward. Each choice made from clarity rather than habit reflects light back toward the sky. Tonight, as you rest with your own breath, can you sense the golden wake you are already creating? Perhaps it appears in your patience with someone difficult, your quiet encouragement of another, or the gentle presence you bring into ordinary exchanges. The light you reflect may be guiding paths you will never see. And now, let us continue with another gentle story, one that speaks of appearances and the masks we wear in our longing to be accepted. This is known as the tale of the hungry abbot and the generous robe. In a busy merchant quarter of an ancient Chinese city, where silk traders prospered and wealthy families built grand homes behind tall walls, there lived a man whose fortune was known throughout the region. His mansion held carved jade doorways, courtyards filled with rare birds, and servants who attended his every need. He took great pride in his status and guarded his reputation carefully among the city's elite. One quiet morning, as autumn rain fell in a steady veil upon the cobblestone streets, a lone figure approached the ornate gate of the wealthy man's estate. The visitor was a Zen abbot from a mountain monastery, yet to any casual eye he appeared no different from a common beggar. His simple brown robes were patched and faded, thinned by many years of use. His sandals were cracked and dark with mud from long walks along forest paths. In his hands he carried a wooden begging bowl, marked with the stains and scratches of countless meals received in humility. The abbot stood silently at the gate, rain slipping from his shaved head, waiting with the unhurried dignity born of long spiritual discipline. When the gatekeeper finally noticed him, his face tightened with open disdain. "What do you want, beggar?" the gatekeeper barked, offering neither bow nor courtesy. "This is the home of an important man. We have no scraps for wanderers." "I am traveling and seeking alms," the abbot replied gently. "Perhaps your master might offer a simple meal to a monk." The gatekeeper looked him over with contempt. Ragged clothing, worn sandals, an empty bowl. To him, this was nothing more than another vagrant hoping to take advantage of his master's wealth. "Go away," he snapped. "My master does not waste food on beggars. Seek charity elsewhere." The abbot did not argue. He did not protest or explain. He simply bowed, turned, and walked back into the rain, his empty bowl resting quietly beneath his arm. Several hours later, as the clouds parted and the afternoon sun spilled softly onto the street, the same figure returned to the same gate. Yet now, everything appeared different. The abbot was dressed in his formal ceremonial robes, rich golden silk embroidered with intricate patterns, a deep purple sash resting across his shoulders, prayer beads carved from precious wood hanging at his side. His posture remained humble, his expression unchanged, yet his appearance now spoke clearly of high spiritual rank and honored lineage. When the gatekeeper saw him approach, his manner transformed instantly. "Welcome, venerable master," he exclaimed, bowing deeply. "Please enter at once. My master will be honored to receive you." The wealthy man himself hurried out, offering elaborate bows and polished words of welcome. "What a blessing for our humble household," he said warmly. "Please, you must join us for our finest meal." They ushered the abbot into the most elegant dining room, where servants quickly arranged a lavish feast. Delicate fish, carefully seasoned vegetables, fragrant rice, and sweet desserts filled the low table. The rich man sat opposite the abbot, glowing with pride at his ability to host such a distinguished guest. When the first course was set before him, the abbot did something no one expected. He did not eat. Instead, he slowly removed his magnificent ceremonial robe, folded it with careful attention, and placed it gently before the feast, as though the robe itself were the honored guest. Then, standing with quiet clarity, he spoke so all could hear. "This meal is not for me," he said. "It is for the robe." Without another word, he turned and walked out of the house, leaving behind the untouched feast and the rich man's sudden, painful awakening to his own shallow judgment. The Buddha taught, "Judge not by appearances. A rich heart may dwell beneath a poor coat." Here we are shown how attachment to outward form creates walls between human beings and clouds true understanding. Why do we so quickly measure worth by clothing, status, or symbols of success? Zen wisdom points to the conditioned mind, always sorting and ranking based on surfaces, seeking comfort in easy judgments rather than the deeper work of seeing clearly. The household in this story reflects a habit many of us carry. How differently do we respond to someone well-dressed compared to someone worn and tired? How does our attention shift when we hear a prestigious title instead of a humble role? The abbot was the same person in both encounters. His compassion, insight, and presence never changed. Only the eyes that looked upon him changed. Look gently at your own patterns of perception. Notice the assumptions that arise when you see expensive cars or worn shoes, refined speech or simple words. Each judgment reveals how easily we confuse appearance with essence. This story invites a deeper question. If the world treats us differently based on how we appear, which version of us is real? The one dressed for ceremony, or the one walking quietly through the rain? In Zen practice, this is called seeing the original face, the self that exists beneath all roles, garments, and names. This original face is not improved by praise nor diminished by neglect. As the old masters taught, your true nature is neither born nor destroyed. It remains present whether we are honored or ignored, clothed in silk or wrapped in rags. Tonight, as you rest and let the body soften, you may sense this deeper presence within you, the quiet awareness untouched by judgment, unchanged by circumstance. Rest there gently, and allow the mind to grow still, like rain settling into the earth, returning everything to its natural place. The abbot's lesson was never meant only for the wealthy guest, but for every soul who hears this story and recognizes themselves within it. By offering food to the robe rather than to his own body, he quietly revealed how easily we confuse appearance with truth. So often, we relate to masks instead of presence, to titles instead of hearts. We bow to rank, clothing, and symbols of importance, while overlooking the living being standing softly before us. Pause for a moment and sense how this understanding might gently reshape the way you meet the world. The waiter who brings your meal, the cashier who hands you change, the stranger asking for help on a quiet street. Each carries the same intrinsic worth as the most celebrated guest. The true practice is learning to look beyond uniforms, beyond circumstance, beyond assigned roles, and to meet the original face beneath them all. This does not require us to reject customs or deny the structures of daily life. Rather, it invites us to hold them with less weight. We may respect someone's profession while remembering their shared humanity. We may wear fitting garments for our duties while knowing that our value is not stitched into fabric. Tonight, as you gently review the many roles you moved through today, see if you can sense the silent awareness that observed them all. Can you feel the presence that remains unchanged whether praised or ignored, noticed or unseen? The Buddha taught that one peaceful word outweighs 1,000 empty ones. The abbot's wordless action carried deeper wisdom than long speeches about compassion and equality. By leaving behind a feast prepared for appearance instead of essence, he offered a teaching that still breathes through time. And now, let us drift into another story, one that speaks of courage, trust, and the quiet wisdom of surrender. This is the story of the Crystal River. Deep within a vast and shimmering river, where the water moved as clear as high mountain air, there lived a small village of gentle creatures. Above them, the current passed like a steady breath, carrying stories from distant springs and faraway seas. Young and old, humble and proud, all made their homes along the sandy floor. Each creature clutched tightly to stones, roots, and fallen branches. For countless generations, holding on had meant survival. From the moment they were born, they were taught to wrap themselves around what was solid. Do not let go, the elders warned. The current is dangerous. It will carry you somewhere unknown. Safety is found only in staying exactly where you are. Yet among them lived one small creature who grew weary of endless gripping. Each day, he watched the water glide above him with effortless grace. While others complained of aching limbs and the strain of holding fast, he wondered what it might feel like to trust that flowing strength. One quiet morning he spoke. "I am tired of clinging," he said softly. "Though I cannot see where the current leads, I trust that it knows its way. I will release my hold and allow it to carry me. If I continue clinging, I fear I will fade from boredom before I ever truly live." His neighbors cried out in alarm. "Fool," they shouted. "The moment you let go, the current will smash you against the rocks. You will be broken and destroyed far sooner than boredom could ever harm you." But the small creature had already decided. With one final glance at the familiar stone, he opened his grip. At once, the current seized him. Just as they had warned, he was rolled and spun across the rocky bottom. His body struck stone after stone, pain rising with each collision. Yet as he continued to surrender, resisting the urge to grasp again, something unexpected occurred. Gradually, the water lifted him higher, away from the jagged floor. The crashing ceased. The stones could no longer reach him. Now he moved with the river itself, no longer resisting its path, but becoming part of its flow. Far downstream, other creatures witnessed something they had never seen. One like themselves, yet gliding freely, moving with the strength and beauty of the current. "A miracle!" they cried. "One of our own, yet he flies. Surely he is the chosen one, come to save us." Hearing their voices, the flowing creature felt compassion. "I am no savior," he called gently. "The river lifts us all, if only we dare to release our grip. Our true work is not holding the bottom, but trusting the journey." Yet the creatures shouted louder, clinging even tighter to their stones. When he disappeared around the bend, they began weaving stories of the miraculous being who had briefly passed through their lives. The Buddha reminds us that what we cling to is what we lose. This teaching reveals a quiet paradox at the heart of existence. We grasp for safety and control, believing it will protect us, yet in that very grasping we create our suffering. Why do we fear the current that longs to carry us? Zen wisdom shows that from childhood, we are taught the familiar is safe and the unknown is dangerous. Over time, this belief becomes a barrier to growth. We imagine control will shield us from change, but life is movement itself. When we resist this truth, we exhaust ourselves struggling against a force far greater than our will. Reflect gently on where you may still be holding on. A relationship that has changed, a path that no longer nourishes you, or an image of yourself that feels too small. The river of change flows regardless. The choice is whether to fight it or to discover the ease that comes with surrender. The Buddha taught that nothing is permanent except change. Water does not argue with the mountain. It simply finds its way. Tonight, as you rest within this quiet moment, what are you ready to release? A worry about tomorrow, a regret from yesterday, a story you no longer need to carry. Can you feel the current of this moment and trust its direction? Let go of what is past. Let go of what may come. Let go even of what is happening now. Relax and rest. In this letting go, we discover that the force we feared is the very one that gently carries us home. And now, let us turn to a final story, one that reveals the power of belief and the destiny shaped by faith. This is the tale of the general and the coin. A Japanese general once faced an impossible battle. His army was small, his enemy vast. The land favored his opponents, and by every known measure, defeat seemed certain. Yet deep within him, a quiet certainty remained. Perhaps it was intuition, perhaps hope, but he believed victory was possible. His soldiers, however, could see the numbers. Fear moved through their ranks. Doubt darkened their faces. An army that believes it has already lost will surely fall. Knowing this, the general led his men to a small shrine beside the road. There they prayed together. When the prayers ended, he raised a coin. "We will let heaven decide," he said. "If it lands heads, we will win. If tails, we will lose." He tossed the coin. It landed heads. Joy erupted. Filled with certainty, they fought with unity and strength, and against all odds, they prevailed. Later, the general revealed the truth. The coin had heads on both sides. The Buddha taught that we become what we think. Destiny is not given to us. It is shaped by belief. Now, let this understanding settle gently as you drift toward rest. Why is it that we so quickly believe fate is beyond our reach, when the mind itself plays such a powerful role in shaping what unfolds? Zen Buddhism gently reminds us that while we cannot command the outer world, we hold great influence over the inner conditions through which every experience is received. We may not choose all circumstances, but we do shape the spirit with which we meet them. The general understood something subtle about the human heart and the nature of reality. He knew that his soldiers' belief in victory mattered more than the numbers standing against them. Confidence, resolve, and unity can outweigh apparent disadvantage when they arise authentically. Yet the deeper lesson is this: the general did not merely deceive his men. He created the space in which their inherent courage could awaken. Their strength was already present. It simply needed permission to emerge. Reflect now on your own relationship with destiny and possibility. How often do you quietly assume that outcomes are fixed, that success or failure lies beyond your influence? The two-sided coin is a symbol for the quiet power each of us carries. The ability to lean toward life with trust, clarity, and wholehearted presence. This does not suggest that belief alone controls reality, nor that effort can be replaced by hope. The soldiers still had to step forward. They still had to act with skill and bravery. Yet belief shaped the inner ground from which their best qualities could rise. In Zen practice, we learn to balance effort and surrender, intention and acceptance. We recognize that while we cannot force results, we can deeply influence the energy we bring into each moment. This quality of presence often determines whether we move through life with ease or struggle, regardless of circumstances. A Zen master once taught that the unwise reject what they see, while the wise learn to question what they think. The general understood that thoughts of defeat were more dangerous than the enemy itself. He worked with the mind rather than against it. Gently examine the challenges in your own life. Where might you be carrying a quiet expectation of loss? Where might fear soften your effort before you have truly begun? And where might you create your own two-sided coin? A practice, a perspective, or a gentle reminder that continually guides you toward wholehearted engagement? The Buddha taught that we become what we think, and that the world we experience is shaped through consciousness itself. This is not magic, but awareness of the creative power already within you. As you settle into this moment, consider the battles you are facing and the hopes you carry. Can you cultivate inner conditions that support your highest potential rather than your deepest doubt? While destiny may remain mysterious, your attitude shapes how that mystery moves through you. One candle can light thousands without losing its own flame. Happiness does not diminish when shared. The general's confidence spread quietly, igniting belief in every heart around him. Sometimes the most powerful act is simply creating the conditions for strength to reveal itself. Now, as our time together begins to soften and close, notice the stillness that has gently arrived. Feel how this calm was not something you constructed, but something you allowed. This tranquility is not new. It has always lived within you, like a clear pool beneath rippling water. Thoughts may come and go, but this quiet presence remains untouched. The Buddha once offered this gentle reflection. In the end, what matters is how deeply we loved, how gently we lived, and how gracefully we released what was never meant to stay. Each story tonight has been a lesson in letting go, of regret, of fear, of the mind's restless voice. These teachings have now settled within you, like seeds resting in fertile soil, continuing their work beyond words. This is not about achieving a perfect state, but about meeting experience with kindness. Even if tomorrow feels busy, remember this moment. The path back to stillness is always open. The peace you touched is not a visitor passing through. It is a quiet resident of your awareness. As you drift into deep and healing sleep, know that the true teaching was never in the stories themselves, but in the space they opened inside you. In this silence, the body softens, the mind releases, and healing naturally unfolds. Carry this feeling of gentle surrender with you into rest. Let it support your sleep and greet you with quiet strength at dawn. Sleep well.